I bought my parents a $425,000 seaside mansion for their 50th anniversary. When I arrived, my mother was crying and my father was shaking. My brother-in-law was in the doorway screaming, "This is my house now! Get out!" He had no idea whose name was on the deed. My mother was crying when I walked in. My father was shaking. I had bought them a $425,000 seaside mansion for their 50th anniversary. Blue shutters, wraparound porch, the Atlantic, visible beyond the dunes. 3 weeks earlier, I had placed the keys in my mother's hands and watched my father grip the railing like he was afraid the whole thing would disappear. Now, my brother-in-law Craig was in the entryway, pointing at the door, screaming, "This is my house now, old man. You and Helen pack your things and get out." My sister Vanessa stood in the kitchen archway drinking wine from one of Mom's crystal glasses. She laughed like it was entertainment. "Dad, don't be dramatic. You don't need all this space. Ethan won't care." Craig kicked a cardboard box toward my father's feet. "Door's right there. Use it." Dad's lips moved. Nothing came out. That was when I walked through the front door and shut it behind me. The music stopped. Vanessa's smile disappeared. Craig turned around slowly. I looked at the box on the floor, at my father's trembling hands, at the bruise-colored shadow around my mother's wrist where someone had held her too hard. Then I looked at Craig. "Tell me again," I said quietly, "whose house this is." He pulled his shoulders back, tried to look like a man who owned something. "Ethan, you showed up at a bad time." "No, looks like I showed up exactly on time." Vanessa set the crystal glass down too hard. It cracked against the marble. "You have no idea what's been going on. Mom and Dad can't maintain a place this size. Craig and I have kids. We need the space." I almost laughed, not because anything was funny, because she had always done this. When I built my company, she said I had forgotten where I came from. Now she was standing inside the house I had bought for our parents, acting like the one who had been wronged. Craig pointed at Dad again. "George already agreed they'd move into the guest cottage. We're just being practical." Mom's head snapped up. "We never agreed to anything." "Mom," Vanessa said flatly, "you were confused." I walked into the living room. My nephew sat frozen on the sectional, surrounded by pizza boxes and soda cans. On the mantle, where Mom had placed her anniversary photo with Dad, someone had pushed the frame aside to make room for a Bluetooth speaker. I pulled out my phone and called the police. Craig's face shifted. "Who are you calling? The police? For what? Trespassing, elder intimidation, and whatever else they decide after they see Mom's wrist?" He stepped toward me. "You don't want to do that." I held his stare. "Take one more step." He stopped. Vanessa's voice went sharp. "We're family." "No," I said. "Mom and Dad are family. You're an intruder with our last name." The officers arrived 12 minutes later. Craig became the offended innocent. Vanessa started crying, telling them she was only trying to help aging parents transition responsibly. Then I handed the officer a copy of the deed, the occupancy agreement my attorney had drafted, and the security logs showing Craig had changed the access code 2 days earlier. Dad found his voice. He told me if I didn't leave, he'd make sure Helen and I had nowhere to go. The room went still. The officer turned to Craig. He pointed at me. "This is his fault. He waves money around and makes everyone feel small." I looked at him. "I bought this house so they could wake up to the ocean after 50 years of waking up before sunrise just to survive." Then the neighbor, Mrs. Klein, appeared on the porch in her gardening clothes. She told the officer the tall one had been yelling for days, that yesterday the older gentleman had been locked out of his own home for nearly 20 minutes. Vanessa covered her face. The officer closed her notepad and looked at Craig and Vanessa. "You need to gather your belongings and leave today." Craig's voice rose. "You're removing a family with children?" "I'm removing people from a property where they are no longer welcome." Vanessa turned to me. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Ethan, don't do this." I looked at my father. He was standing straight for the first time all afternoon, both hands at his sides, watching Craig the way a man watches something he is finally done being afraid of. The officers waited by the door. Craig picked up his keys.